Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you guys. Personally, I didn't feel this fight was deserving of film study. I didn't feel this fight was deserving of film study because Manny Pacquiao has no business fighting Chris Algieri. But a couple people contacted me via private messages and said, okay, if you're not going to do film study of the whole fight, could you at least do film study of round 9 when Pacquiao dropped Algieri? So that's what I'm going to do.
Apologise to Pacquiao, right hand was below the belt.
So here we see Pacquiao coming in. So after catching and stepping back from Manny Pacquiao's punches, Chris Algieri lands a counter hook on Pacquiao. Now, basically, he catches Manny Pacquiao as he comes in, and all Chris Algieri does is step back, like I always say, and he counters with the left hook. Very good from Chris Algieri.
He's having a go. He's not going all out hell.
And here we see a good counter from Pacquiao. Pacquiao is very good at splitting the jab of his opponent, especially if it's a lazy jab. Algieri's jab was simply not a very good weapon against Pacquiao because he really didn't have much commitment behind the jab, and it wasn't sharp and it wasn't quick enough. So here we see a very good counter from Manny Pacquiao on Chris Algieri's jab, countering under the jab. Very good from Manny Pacquiao.
He's never going to do that. He didn't promise he was going to go toe-to-toe with Pacquiao. So he said he was going to box him. That's what he's trying.
And here we see a counter over the jab again. See, Pacquiao parries yet another poor and lazy jab from Chris Algieri. Like I said previously, Pacquiao knows all too well how to counter a lazy jab. Your jab needs to be quick, sharp, strong to be effective against Pacquiao. And there you see Pacquiao counter with the straight left hand after he parried the jab. This is what Manny Pacquiao will do all night if you allow him to, basically by feeding him these lazy, uncommitted jabs. Good counter from Pacquiao.
No, he hasn't looked too bad. I'm a little.
Now this is a much better jab from Chris Algieri, and this is really what he should have been using all night. And also the key thing to realize is Chris Algieri is circling out to his left. You always want to take the southpaw clockwise. In other words, you want to move to the southpaw's jab hand and take away that straight left.
I'm impressed with Algieri, even though he's getting well beat. See with his shaping into a world-class, phenomenal fighter, but just getting.
So here we see Pacquiao once again lunging at his opponent, and Chris Algieri catches him with a good right hand over his straight left hand. People need to stop making excuses and understand that lunging at your opponent is and always will be a flaw in Manny Pacquiao's fight game. It leaves Pacquiao wide open to be countered. There is simply no excuse for lunging at your opponent.
To be honest, that's all you can say. He's going to beat by a better guy at the moment.
Pacquiao still is trying to win. Pacquiao still is trying to win.
So here we see a beautiful straight left hand from Pacquiao to the body. This of course forces Chris Algieri to drop his guard ever so slightly, and then Pacquiao would then look to capitalize on this with a short, sharp right hook to the head. Beautiful combination from Pacquiao. And there you see the right hook to the head there from Pacquiao.
That's a nice little sneak right hand followed by the left jab to sneak right hand followed by the left jab to.
Let's see what happens here. So Pacquiao uses this right hook to prevent Chris Algieri from circling out to his left. It keeps him in place just long enough for Pacquiao to strafe him with a straight left hand. Good boxing from Manny Pacquiao. And there we see the straight left hand, partially blocked by Chris Algieri.
Rather following the left jab to the body.
Lovely little variation on it.
And here we see a counter from Algieri. Here we see Chris Algieri counter Pacquiao's lazy jab with a left hook over the jab. Once again, Manny Pacquiao does not have a jab. He paused with his right hand to set up his left hand. And this is why you see Pacquiao constantly being countered over his jab.
Nice work from Algieri.
That's me, he hasn't stopped trying anything. If he thinks he can land a shot, he's willing to take that risk.
Subdued sound of the crowd. Subdued sound of the crowd. Subdued sound of the crowd.
And here we see Algieri land this right hand. So here we see Chris Algieri leading with a straight right hand and catching Pacquiao clean. Once again, when I say that Manny Pacquiao cannot move his head, this is exactly why I'm saying it. Algieri has changed levels and partially telegraphs this right hand, and even then Pacquiao is incapable of moving his head to avoid it. Pacquiao could slip this punch, or he could even duck this punch to his left, but he does absolutely nothing. And then you see the left hook after the right hand.
He lands with the right hand, Algieri.
And the left hook over the top as well.
It shows that he's having his success here. The great hero is not having it all his own way.
And his movement's been good. And the jab, though, hasn't been that successful with it, but he's good.
Chris Algieri is moving around way too much. There's a lot of unnecessary movement by Chris Algieri. With all of this bouncing up and down by Algieri, he is unable to actually plant his feet and actually punch. Algieri already lacks the power, but with him moving and bouncing all over the ring for absolutely no reason, he can never actually commit to a punch, and so Pacquiao simply doesn't respect his offense.
Tried to use it, which is difficult against a southpaw.
Maybe perversely. Oh, good left hand. Round 10.
Round 10 or 11, I'm 11 left. Round 10 or 11, I'm 11 left.
Maybe perversely. Oh, good left hand.
So let's take a look at what happens. First thing we notice is Chris Algieri is attempting to check hook Manny Pacquiao as he comes in with a straight left hand. Now we all know Pacquiao drops his right hand when he lunges with a straight left hand. But the problem with what Chris Algieri is actually doing is the fact that he brings his head directly into the firing line. He should be pulling his head away as he check hooks with his left hand. He brings his head closer to Pacquiao.
First knockdown, Manny put everything into that one. He was moving mostly forward, but a little bit to his left. All right, we'll take a...
So this is basically not how to throw a check left hook. Algieri leans his head over to the right, and this basically brings his head directly into the trajectory of Pacquiao's straight left hand. Now Pacquiao's straight left hand is an amazing weapon, but Chris Algieri actually helps Pacquiao.
Look at it. There it is, that scorching left hand. A perfect punch by Manny Pacquiao.
Round 10.
Round 10.
So every time Manny Pacquiao fights, he's going to give his opponents openings to land clean, effective punches. Notice how he always drops his right hand when he shoots his straight left hand. The opening for the check hook will always be there against Manny Pacquiao. The problem is Chris Algieri's technique on this check left hook was so terrible because he brings his head closer to the southpaw straight left hand, which is basically an act of suicide. So to summarize, Chris Algieri did not use a strong and effective jab against Pacquiao. You need a strong, sharp jab against Manny Pacquiao. Chris Algieri was able to frustrate Pacquiao by circling to the left, which took away his straight left hand. Pacquiao was able to counter Algieri's lazy jabs. Likewise, Chris Algieri was also able to counter Manny Pacquiao's lazy right hand. Pacquiao was still lunging at his opponents, still leaving himself open, and he was still way too easy to hit. Poor defense as usual from Pacquiao. And finally, Chris Algieri simply does not know how to throw a proper check left hook.
Alright guys, that's all I've got time for. It was a good win for Pacquiao. I can't take anything away from Pacquiao. But we just need to remember, obviously, the competition he was up against, I mean, he really did fight Chris Algieri, that fight actually happened. Pacquiao actually fought Chris Algieri. So all you have to do is just sit back and just remember who Chris Algieri really is. And then think about the fact that, Pacquiao really did fight Chris Algieri. That fight actually happened. So when you realize that, then, there's not much you can actually take from that kind of fight. But still, it was a good win for Pacquiao, and he did what he was supposed to do. So with that said, on to the next one.
Why y'all mad at me and shit? Let's get. Hey, what's up with them shooters?